Did those post-credit sequences in Evil Dead Burn tease what's to come in Evil Dead Wrath? Well, let's talk a little bit about it.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I want to be a fighter, like you.
Oh, let it burn! Let it burn!
Did you miss me?
You have to shoot them in the head. They always come back.
The boat can leave now. Tell the crew.
Well, sometimes that is better.
Good luck.
Evil Dead Burn has been in theaters for a full week now, and I personally really enjoyed it. It was certainly a darker entry that combined the brutality of French extremism with the more modern feel of Evil Dead 2013. The character work effectively made me root for or against certain players, and the nightmarish vibe only grows as the film progresses. Check out my review video on the film if you want to hear more of my thoughts, as well as how I'd rank all 6 Evil Dead flicks in these videos here. We've been talking about how gnarly Evil Dead Burn has been for a while now, so let's talk a little bit about the future of the franchise and the upcoming 7th installment. Evil Dead Wrath is currently in post-production after wrapping up a few months ago in New Zealand. The 7th installment arrives in theaters on April 7th of 2028. Although we have a little under a 2-year wait for this one still, we already know a lot about it. It comes from director Francis Galuppi, who was handpicked by Sam Raimi to helm the next installment after Raimi saw his 2023 thriller The Last Stop in Yuma County. That one looks like more of a Coen Brothers crime thriller than it does a straight-up horror movie, so I'm wondering how that influences the direction of the next flick. Charlotte Hope stars, who's probably best known as the cannibalistic Miranda on Game of Thrones, but horror fans may recognize her as Sister Victoria from The Nun. You know, the best Conjuring movie ever made.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Jessica McNamee, Sonya from the new Mortal Kombat movies, and Zach Gilford, a Mike Flanagan regular, also star. According to producer Robert Tappert, Evil Dead Wrath, quote, has a lot of coming-of-age sexual hijinks in it, which people in that universe are not really known for, but this one does, and it goes there, I think. It's going to be the one since the first Evil Dead movie that may have the most difficulty with the MPAA. Now, when I originally talked about Evil Dead Wrath before I had gotten to see Evil Dead Burn, my big theory was that maybe they were going to reinvent the whole tree sequence that Sam Raimi famously regrets, but now Evil Dead Burn is pointing us in a totally different direction. Let's talk about some of the clues that are laid throughout Evil Dead Burn that could be setting up the next installment. So a major criticism I'm hearing of Evil Dead Burn is how the Deadites have this new goal besides making everyone dead by dawn. They're looking for the Kandarian dagger, the only thing that can stop them, which is also a disappointingly small little fella this time around. To quote what I say to myself every morning in the mirror, it's not the size that matters, it's what you do with it that does. My fiance would sadly disagree. The point being, whenever the Deadites address this family, they seem to have history with them.
We found you.
Could it be because the grandfather character, Benjamin Price, held them off for so long? Benjamin was said to be part of the Circle of Wise Men in Evil Dead Burn, which is notably an Army of Darkness reference. You'll remember the singular wise man from that film that was the only one to believe the prophecy that Ash was going to save them from the Deadites. It sounds like this group somehow ties back to him, passing down his knowledge of the Book of the Dead through the generations. In turn, then, I think it is going to also tie to this grandfather character who we have yet to see on screen, but that may be changing moving into Evil Dead Wrath. I could see actor Zach Gilford, who's been cast in Evil Dead Wrath, playing a younger Benjamin Price. Alongside him could be Charlotte Hope playing a younger version of Grandma Polly Price. So since we already know that Evil Dead Wrath is going to take place in the past, in the 70s, I'm thinking that it's going to follow Benjamin and Polly, and maybe Ben is just obsessed with studying the Book of the Dead and keeping the Kandarian demons back. With Benjamin's nose constantly in the Necronomicon, Polly maybe feels a little neglected. Maybe she has a side piece who is about to home wreck this whole situation. I think that's as far as I'm going to take that whole theory for right now, because YouTube may not be so happy if I were to continue. The point being with all of this, the simple setup for Evil Dead Wrath could be these characters who are amidst this crazy home wrecking situation, yet have to work together to stop the Deadites that are ultimately coming for them, because of course Benjamin is going to be stupid and read the wrong passage. The biggest head scratcher when it comes to Evil Dead Wrath, however, is how both of those post-credit sequences from Evil Dead Burn are actually going to play into the next one. It's the final post-credit scene that is really throwing me for a loop here, seeing Ellie somehow back from the dead after being pushed through a wood chipper in the previous film. After the child of the morgue owner discovers Ellie's ashes in an urn, somehow Maggot Mommy returns from the grave and just rips this little girl to shreds. What is going on here? I guess it's no surprise that we're building to some sort of bigger story here, especially considering all of the connections that Evil Dead Burn has to Evil Evil Dead Rise. I mean, the opening scene alone finishes up the whole bookend thing that's happening in Evil Dead Rise that kind of felt like it was out of place the first time I watched that movie, but now I understand they had a plan the entire time. But now knowing that Ellie Bixler is somehow not a pile of meat chips in a parking garage has me just asking a ton of questions. How are we doing this? And we can't forget about the first post-credit scene either that shows the grandma still crawling down the road as a deadite and then ultimately passing that on to a passerby. Now, we already know that the film is set in 1972, but that doesn't mean we can't flash forward to the future either. Maybe the Circle of Wise Men found a passage in the book that would allow the deadites to continuously return and deemed that far too OP. And now deadite Ellie is somehow using that to return from the grave, perhaps? Hopefully that plays into the story of Evil Dead Rise, because I feel like there's not really any stakes if like no one can die, if anyone can kind of just come back whenever they want to. Or maybe this is just a glorified cameo and I'm totally overthinking it right now. I really don't think I am though. Those two post-credit sequences feel like they're setting up something to come in the next movie. So my biggest theory when it comes to Evil Dead Wrath is I think it's going to be a similarly structured movie to Fear Street 1666. The third film in the original Fear Street trilogy flashes back to the titular year in order to explain what's really going on with the town's curse. Most of the movie takes place in 1666, only to flash forward to 1994 for the big climax. I'm kind of thinking Evil Dead Wrath is gonna do the same thing. We flash back to 1972, we learn about this Circle of Wise Men and what they were up to. Somehow that leads into the events happening in present day, possibly a deadite apocalypse, something that the Evil Dead franchise has been wanting to do for years.
No! I slept too long!
Think about having Maggot Mommy here leading the charge of deadites into a big city. That kind of showcase scene alone would have me sold on Evil Dead Wrath. This could also mean the return of some fan favorite characters like Beth and Cassie from Evil Dead Rise, maybe even Alice from this flick. And I can't lie, as much as the nostalgia stuff sometimes feels cheap to me, it would be pretty cool if they somehow got Jane Levy to be in Evil Dead Wrath to show up, even just for the end, just a little sequence at the end. That'd be pretty cool. The one thing I'm pretty confident on is that Evil Dead Wrath in some capacity I think is going to take place in 1972 and then flash forward to the future. Because what the hell else is going on with those post-credit scenes? Are we gonna get some more cameos of other characters from the franchise's past, like Ash Williams, maybe even Pablo or Kelly from the TV series? That right there is a big maybe. But the bouncing around the timeline stuff, I'm pretty damn sure, unless we're pulling the Halloween Ends here where we just don't care about the previous films and we're doing our own thing in Evil Dead Wrath. I feel like it's kind of hard to do that at this point considering how much connective tissue you have between Rise and Burn. I would be pretty shocked at this point if this was just another standalone, even though I wouldn't mind it. I guess we'll finally find out when this movie drops on April 7th of 2028. It is going to be a long wait though. Before we wrap up today's video, please make sure to like it and subscribe to this page for more updates on the most exciting horror projects. Also, the best way to support this channel is by becoming a patron on Patreon. Over there, you can find a ton of bonus content like reactions to various horror TV shows and movies. We're currently watching Dexter and Hannibal with multiple episodes going up there a week. No, what? Check it out by clicking on the link in the description below. One final plug and I'll shut the heck up. Please make sure to also check out my film channel, Human Egg Productions, where we're currently posting horror and comedy short films. If you like slashers especially, check out the gory short I wrote and directed called Chicken Man. Thank you to everyone who supports all of my pages. What do you guys think is happening in Evil Dead Wrath? Are those post-credit sequences actually going somewhere? Is the deadite curse being passed on to somebody else? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.